Hi, this is Pedro speaking. In this presentation, we will be talking about the concept of panarchy and its application to urban systems. The agenda of this presentation is as follows. The concept of panarchy will first be introduced by talking about the adaptive cycle and its phases as well as its framework. Then the concept of panarchy will be discussed in terms of concepts of system dynamics as well as complexity, and finally its application to urban systems will be discussed. Historically, the concept of panarchy was first used to describe the freedom of people to choose their government despite their location. However, its application to ecosystems has been developed in the late 1900s and has picked up more and more importance throughout the years to describe the ability of systems to adapt and to describe the cross-linkages between different subsystems within one governing system. Adaptive cycles are the building blocks of panarchy systems. Within one adaptive cycle, the life cycle of a system is presented. It shows the ability of the system to inherently adapt to the scale and the time that it is framed in, and the ability of different systems to interact at different levels within one governing system. The purpose of the adaptive cycles is to allow the user to understand where a system is at with respect to its different phases, as well as to shape the system behavior in future times. Adaptive cycles are divided into 4 phases. The first phase, which is when there's high levels of growth, enormous positive feedbacks, as well as plenty of resources and new possibilities for the system, is called exploitation. After the phase of exploitation, systems enter a stage of conservation. Within this stage, the system achieve levels of equilibrium and utilize negative feedback loops to increase their adaptability and increase their levels of complexity. On the other hand, this may mean that potential rigidity as well as lower diversity becomes more apparent within the system, and the system enters a state of stagnation. When the conservation phase is no longer sustainable and the system experiences collapse, it enters a phase of release. Shortly after the collapse and the phase of release, systems enter a level of reorganization. In this phase, systems are able to recover, they're able to reorganize and utilize innovation in order to create new possibilities. These new possibilities are then exploited and further utilized as part of a newer system, which then enters the new level of adaptive cycle accordingly. As mentioned before, a panarchy is composed of different adaptive cycles. These adaptive cycles are interconnected with each other and share concepts of system dynamics as well as complexity. There are multiple concepts of system dynamics found within panarchy systems, and they are presented in this slide. First of all, the concept of feedback is extremely present, mostly in the exploitation as well as conservation phase, with positive as well as negative feedbacks respectively. After, the concept of relationships is well shown by the arrows that are purple and blue on the panarchy concept diagram shown on the left-hand side of the picture, and shows the network and interconnectivity of the different scales within the same system. Finally, the hierarchy as well as resilience of the systems is shown by the large connectivities and networks that are created between small and fast as well as large and slow systems within one same governing system. On the other hand, panarchy concepts also display high levels of complexity. This complexity is shown by the ability of systems to self-organize, by the ability of systems to stay within levels of criticality between the stages of conservation as well as release, ahead of collapses as well as times of crises, and the ability of systems to dissipate and to reach higher levels of stability and to reach lower levels of entropy. And these 3 concepts display the ability of these panarchy systems to display some sort of memory, the ability of the different growth cycles to be based on previous growth cycles and to understand how the systems are to move forward. The concept of panarchy and the ability of systems to interact with each other at different scales can easily be applied to urban systems. Below are two examples of current systems of North American societies that are experiencing different levels of phase growth within the panarchy cycle. The first one is the energy system. Energy system is driven by a high number of efficiencies, and this efficiency has become more important than the resilience of the system itself. The approach of the low hanging fruit and the ability of companies to cut all of their costs to ensure that low productivity costs are achieved are working against the whole concept of panarchy, which allows systems to network with each other at different scales and to embrace small levels of failure through the phases of release. This can be exemplified by the fact that the price of a barrel of oil dropped to a negative amount of dollars in April 2020. And this further shows the self-organized criticality of system that was passed, and the inability of this specific system to address disturbances such as the current pandemic of COVID-19. On the other hand, the financial system also shows that it is in a very high level of conservation. This financial system has now become extremely brittle and is heavily relying on lower interest rates as well as bailouts, and it cannot afford failure through crises and market crashes. This only goes to show how the resilience of these two systems has been degraded as a result of the constant need for growth and for profit that are pushed through our linear economies. According to the previous slide, it can be seen that cities behave according to the adaptive cycle behavior and that are driven by high levels of growth and efficiency at the cost of resilience and cross-linkages. This is a result of societies, most importantly North American societies, to follow linear economy models that do not embrace failure and do not embrace release and renewal and innovation in the same way that is portrayed by the panarchy concept. At a larger scale, this can be applied at the system Earth and its ability, as well as its approach to address the issues associated with climate change as well as global economic stability.